Hey, Margaret.
Yeah, Anton?
You know what people don't talk about enough?
What?
The fact that Simon's tagalong if you dare smirk emoji text was definitely a test, one that Willa thankfully passed. Welcome to People Don't Talk About, Young Royals. I'm Anton, my pronouns are he, they.
And I'm Margaret, my pronouns are they, them.
And we're people here to discuss the show our friends are sick of hearing us talk about.
If that sounds like you, stick around. If your friend sent you this podcast out of a desperate attempt to get you to watch Young Royals, take this as a sign.
Go watch Young Royals, then come back to this podcast.
Anton, what are we talking about today?
Today we'll be having a character discussion of Simon in Season 1, Episode 2, having decided we have no choice but to stand.
Woohoo! In this discussion, we won't be summarizing the plot of the episode, because we already did that. If you need or want a refresher, head back 6 episodes. Okay, 6 episodes in our feed to our most recent This Week at Hilarshka for a full breakdown. This episode discussion will likely be all over the place, so strap in. You've been warned.
Alrighty. To start with our cold open, I think it's been mentioned many times in this cycle before, because I think it's something that I really hadn't latched onto until watching this episode again for the podcast, is we don't get tons of Simon in the first half of the episode. At least we don't really get a lot of his emotions, like his side. And I think it's because he's quite guarded for a lot of the for a lot of the beginning. And I do really think that Wilhelm asking why he wouldn't be at practice is starting to give him the thing that he needed in order to actually start being hopeful.
Yeah, because it's kind of like he cared.
Yeah. And I think that's the whole reason why he's flustered. In a way that we haven't seen him yet. Because there's a level of reciprocation on Wilhelm's side that he hasn't gotten until this point.
Right.
But I would say just kind of backtrack. Now that we're kind of, it's record scratch. I'm sure you're wondering how I got here. We're at the transition point in the episode, but let's kind of fill out the stuff before. I think it's very important to recognize, and I think we have, this is Revolution stuff that we're kind of retreading, just to kind of list out why I personally at least stan Simon, is I just understand him. And I think I understand his reaction. And I think that's actually not a very hot take. I think there's actually very few people who don't get where Simon's coming from in this episode, at least.
Yeah, I would agree.
He is keeping his guard up and just I already talked about this pretty extensively, but I get why Wilhelm is not sending out. He's being a little obvious, but he's not being obvious enough.
He's not being obvious enough that I would take that chance with the Prince of Sweden.
Yes.
Who may or may not be queer, and I do not know.
Yeah, I wouldn't take that chance with anybody, regardless of what their status was, with the amount that Wilhelm's
I'm
giving.
just not taking that chance, period. End of sentence. End of story.
But it's you really need things spelled out for you. We've talked about this in Revolution, especially in queer dynamics. It's a thing that I remember really early on after coming out, it was a thing I thought about a lot, where it's just unspoken script that the unspoken script that straight people just get for free is one of the most frustrating things to me. Like, it's at this point, I think it's well established enough in society that's it sounds a bit like tired, but I think it's still worth mentioning. Like, Simon, as a gay boy, cannot automatically assume via heteronormativity that the people he likes are going to like him back. And I mean, that should be an assumption that all of us have, but it's not. Like, regardless of sexuality. But like, there is at least a far less established script for how these things go. And so I think in the past I've described it as a dance. Or just it's just this weird choreographed thing that I think to some extent Simon is not willing to participate in until he gets more reciprocation from Wilhelm. And I think we both were in strong agreement that, like, good move. Like,
big time.
I get it. But I do think that does connect to, just like with Wilhelm, we already know that we're calling this episode Simon the Hopeful. And I didn't actually fully realize until writing my notes for this episode how much that broadly applies beyond Wilhelm and Simon's relationship. Like, from the very beginning in math class, we get the beginning of like we start outlining the narrative starts outlining for us, like, Simon's ambition to get good grades and succeed. Like, and then which is then further emphasized with the aspirations for the future that he mentions when hanging out with Ayub and Raj. Like, he is Simon the Hopeful in the sense that he sees at least different life for him. If not, I don't know. I caution to say whether or not he'd call it a better life, but it is not this.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. He's also he believes the best in people.
Yeah.
And believes that, I hesitate to bring up Mika because the energy always gets so bad. Yeah. And we were already depressed in the beginning of Wilhelm's standing episode. But now he does go back to Mika with a very purposeful intent this episode of, I need to get more drugs.
Yeah.
However, he does keep going back to Mika.
Yeah.
And he believes August when he says, like, oh, I've just forgotten. I'll get you the money. Just let me know how much I owe you. Yeah.
I mean, I think, I don't know how much he believes the best in people. I think sometimes, like, I mean, not wanting to be friends with anyone, Hilarska, until Wilhelm. Like, he has very strong opinions.
Yeah, but I think not wanting to be friends with people and just being like, because, like, okay, maybe believing the best isn't the right word, but, like, he does have this side of him that just, like, believes in people.
Yeah. It's interesting that you bring up August, because I think for the longest time I've kind of been under the impression that, like, his people-pleasing and, like, self-sacrificing nature really only manifests for people he cares about. I think it comes out strongly with them. But I think for as much as we called him Simon the Bold last episode, I think we spent a lot of that episode also kind of pushing back on that too, about the times that he chooses to step back. And I think for as much as he is a very bold character with a very strong personality, he is also someone who has a strong awareness of his surroundings.
Yes.
I think that's something he and Sarah share.
I would agree with that.
As siblings, I think they observe things in different ways and to different degrees, but I think when it comes to social situations like that, where it's just like, if I push harder, I'm still not going to get anywhere with August. Just knowing that really, I think, can just be like, not necessarily that he's being a defeatist, but that he's being a realist in that sense.
Yeah.
Where I think he is Simon the Hope. I feel like every time we come up with an attribute for Simon, we also are contradicting at the same time. Because like as much as he is Simon the Hopeful, he's also kind of Simon the Realist.
Mm-hmm. I mean, those two things can live simultaneously.
Oh, they definitely can. And I think we talked about Wilhelm having a friction or a tension, and I think it's more subtle in this episode, but I think Simon, that like hopeful versus like realist is the tension that he's experiencing.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Like in all aspects of life, but like especially with Villa, like
Mm-hmm.
realistically, who is going to think that the prince of their country is attracted to them? And like, what is the move there when you just don't like have enough information to go on? Like you're like,
Yeah.
this could be all in my head, and realistically, it probably is.
Yeah. I think my move would be the same that Simon's is.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I think with Wilhelm, we were talking about this tension, and then his recklessness went out, and I think Simon is Simon the Hopeful so because his hopefulness, like went out, but like he is not blindly hopeful.
No, definitely not.
Which I think is an important caveat to add onto this attribute, because it's like, I think it is very important to me, like loving him as a character, that his hope wins out. But I think it's also very important to me that he wasn't hopeful from the beginning. Like,
if I may bring back a topic that we talked about in this time, I know what episode cycle it was. Last week I had no idea what episode cycle I was talking about. Episode cycle 1.
Yeah.
Nuance.
Yes. In praise of nuance. Cycle 1, episode 4 overall, but it was Art of the Choice. It's just very important to me, I think. I mean, in a very Young Royals fashion, I think the way we love these characters, you wouldn't love this show if you didn't really love complexity in your characters.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that is something this show does remarkably well.
100%.
And I think is really one of the reasons why people come back to it, because people have such wide opinions about characters, because they're so contradictory, like people are.
I was gonna say, it makes it incredibly realistic.
Like, these are definitely people that I could see myself knowing in real life and feeling as complicated about them as I do in the show. Like,
I wish I knew Wilhelm in real life.
I mean, don't we all? But like, I think I do, even when I judge their actions, I think I do feel like I'm judging them from a place of a parasocial, granted, but like a friend. And so where I'm like, yeah, okay, good move, Simon, good move, bud. Like, like, he is not giving you enough to risk this. Like,
no.
Right. And then this actually might be my way of giving a little bit of grace and forgiveness to Ayub, actually, for being so harsh on him for calling Simon out, for being so like flustered at the soccer game. I've come down pretty hard on Ayub for like for not really recognizing the difficulties of that, for a queer person potentially. But I think it is good to, like, as someone's friend, also start pushing them out of a mindset that like might not get them what they want.
Yeah. To
some extent. Like, I can't really read Ayub's reaction to Wilhelm very well, but it does, like, you put together, like, he literally came to a local soccer game and he's the Prince of Sweden. Like there's some inkling there that you're like, like maybe I'm all right to let my friend hope a little.
Yeah. My mic is muted.
You're good.
I forgot that I had to mute it because,
Which,
swear to God, there's got to be like a car accident outside my house right now. There's so many horns.
Yeah. Which, given this narrative that we have been constructing about there being a very clear delineation about like when Simon is hopeful and when he is not, I do want to add one caveat to that.
I'd love to hear it.
It is essentially a correction that I'm issuing early on myself.
Ooh.
Thanks to the amount of Tumblr scrolling I do through Young Royals hashtags. God, who am I? Tumblr tags. Not, you don't call them hashtags on Tumblr. I'm fake.
Tumblr hashtags.
I spend too much time on Instagram and they get muddy in my head. But at this point, Instagram is far more for this podcast than it is for my personal life.
Relatable.
Yeah. But that being said, thanks to Tumblr, I found a screen cap that I wish I had remembered to write down the handle for the person who put it up, who noticed this. And I haven't even gone back to the show. I'm like, there's no way this is a doctored photo. So like, it definitely did happen. I just have missed it every single time.
Okay, I saw your correction, and
Yeah.
when I was watching for this episode, I was paying such close attention to that part, and I did not see it.
It is in the initial establishing montage where we're like going to everyone around, like because there's such quick cuts.
Maybe I'm just blind. There was some where he was like kind of blurry, or maybe it was just my eyes.
Yeah, it was kind of a blur. It was kind of a blur.
Okay.
Cap. So it's like
Okay.
it was like I think it might have been more of like I think it was more of a far away shot at Felice, Sarah, and Frederica's table.
Mm-hmm.
And then Maddie's there too. I think Stella. But like that table. That I think it might have been like more the focus on that table. But then it was including Wilhelm and Simon. If I'm remembering the screen cap correctly. I think I'm actually talking around what we're even discussing. Basically, there's an establishing shot that like Villa does. No, there's an establishing shot that Simon does look at Wilhelm, but Wilhelm doesn't see him look at him. So it's like it's actually kind of a reverse of what we get later of Wilhelm looking and then Simon, I think, definitely intentionally ignoring him. But I think in this case, it's a case of Simon looking at Wilhelm, but Wilhelm being oblivious. Which I love for him.
I do love for him.
So like, but I think that just shows that like the hope didn't come out of nowhere. It's just being tamped down by the realism.
Yeah.
Because it's like we already saw at the end of episode 1 that like he's feeling something.
Oh yeah.
But it's like you don't act on something like that until you're pretty darn sure.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I mean, I think it's far better for us for the likability of Simon that he never really assumes much of Villa.
Yeah.
Like he expects direct communication.
Yeah.
Or at least enough communication that he can start reading between the lines. But also, like, he doesn't try to kiss him after their like quasi date at the soccer field. He kisses him after Wilhelm literally holds his hand during a movie.
Right.
Which, and like puts his hand on his knee. That is direct communication.
Yeah. It's nonverbal communication, but communication nonetheless, I suppose.
Oh, yeah. Yes, yeah. Which is why we have to make ourselves sad by thinking about how giddy Simon has his hopes dashed when Wilhelm says to delete the story.
Yeah.
Because it's Simon's moment of recklessness that Wilhelm has been allowed throughout the entire episode of just like wanting to post a video on his story of hanging out with the guy he likes because he's so happy.
Right. And he just can't do that. But he was so happy when he got home.
The little giggle would get me every time. Like, I think it's like, where were you? I was like, I was like hanging out with I can't remember when the giggle falls. It was like, I think was it like I was hanging out with Wilhelm. No, I think it was like, oh, you're back late or something like that, and then he like just starts laughing.
You missed dinner, and then he's like, I lost track of time, and Sarah goes, how'd you lose track of time? You can just check your watch.
Oh right, yeah.
And that's when he giggles, I believe.
No, yeah, that's fair. No, my only comment for that is in all caps, look at him.
Always and forever.
Lara Jean.
What?
That was my brain thought of a YA.
You're perfect. Don't change a
movie.
thing. A rom-com movie?
Yeah. It's a straight one though.
It's a great rom-com movie?
It's a book. It's a YA book adaptation. I
love YA novels. They're so messy.
It is, yeah. Why am I forgetting the first title? To All the Boys I Loved Before.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's P.S. I Still Love You, and then Always and Forever, Lara Jean. I didn't actually read the books, but I watched the movies. And then it's spinoff has with the younger sister has the younger sister being bisexual.
Bisexual.
Yes. So we've really made ourselves happy and also a little sad, but pretty happy by talking about Simon's side of Revolution, essentially. But now we really need to get into the Simon solo stuff that was waiting for this episode.
Mm-hmm.
The library scene.
Okay.
Yes.
I actually particularly like the library scene.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why I said it like that.
Yeah.
That's not a hot take, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. It's one of the better shot. I think I said in another frame, it's one of the better shot sequences in the entire episode.
Yeah. And with the music, so good.
Yeah.
But I don't know why I said but. It's not a but. I like that. I'm just losing my fucking mind. I like, because very often, we talked about this for a long time in the first episode cycle, Simon self-sacrificing.
Yeah.
But he directly deflects and protects Sarah from the situation that he is in with August.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, the first deal, essentially, which we don't really see him directly making with August, but like he agrees to when he lies to his mom, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's something that's a little indirect about that, where like, I suppose if you just are not paying attention, you might not pay attention. You may not realize like how much he's self-sacrificing in that moment. But this is quite blatant.
Yeah.
Like he literally intercepts between Sarah and August in order to make the deal instead. Like that is like basically metaphorical blocking right there.
Oh yeah, big time.
And as you were saying, like this feels very much a return of last cycle's Stan qualities.
Oh yeah.
Like we've also very complicated feelings about his self-sacrifice. But it's but also it is an endearing quality of him. And I wrote still so stupid, affectionate in parentheses.
I mean, I hate to say it, but yeah.
I mean, we discussed this in Love Among Royals. Like, we don't.
Yeah, we did.
We're like, what are you thinking? But again, we also talked about Love Among Royals. Like, we have dramatic irony that he doesn't have, yada yada yada, and like, We get why he does it. You just
Yeah, we can stand here and be like, what the hell? But at the same time,
like
he doesn't have all the information that we do.
and like again,
And I
the
get
alternative is to let his sister be a drug dealer. Like
Well, right, and he's not about to do that because he's a good person.
well, also, something that we haven't really addressed actually that I'm thinking about. We do have to point out that he intercepts between Sarah and August. Like I think it just went kind of when he got there because he was already getting up, but he got there just in time to stop August from spilling the beads about the alcohol.
That too.
And so like teeniest bit of selfishness, but it's selfish from not wanting Sarah to know how much he's sacrificed for her.
I agree with that assessment.
So like I'm like selfish is not a universally bad thing.
Right.
Like I do think Sarah might deserve to know what deals like Simon is making on her behalf, but I also do get how he would want to keep that from her, even though it maybe is probably not the most ethical or responsible decision.
Yeah.
Speaking of ethical and unethical, and irresponsible decisions, stealing.
When he steals drugs from his dad?
Yeah. All I wrote here was need to discuss implications, and I really don't actually know what I mean by that, but here we are.
Yeah. Last time we had a discussion about what pills he stole, and we don't know what pills were in the sleeve, but we do know that he stole tramadol, which is in the bottle, and that is an opioid.
Yeah, but he doesn't
medication.
But he doesn't give that to August, which just raises the question: does he just like have that now? Like,
right? I don't know. I mean, he must.
Yeah.
If he hasn't given it to August, I'm assuming he either has it or he flushed
like,
it.
I know that was a very like rapid fire thing where it's like he was just getting there to like he basically was just pretending to look for spoons when Micah had already grabbed spoons. Like,
yeah. So
like he had very little time.
Right.
And oh my god, I don't know. Headcanon, did when he got home, did he like secretly compare the pills to Sarah's to figure out which ones were correct?
Maybe.
Because like I don't know how much he knows about pills. Like I mean, his dad is an addict, and his sister medicates with for ADHD. So it's like he could have some knowledge, but it's like. Then why did you grab the opioids then?
Yeah, I mean, I only know what tramadol is because I give it to my seals.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. And so it's like, I mean, because like, also we've talked about, I think before, like, I can't remember if this was off pod, but I think we were on mic for this. Like, we don't know whether or not Micah and Sarah have the same prescription.
Right.
So I think it makes sense that like he would just kind of grab if he didn't know all ADHD medications offhand.
Right, and unless you're an ADHD professional, I doubt you would.
Yeah. Especially at, 16?
Yeah.
But I guess, I don't know, implications. Like, I when we were talking about, in Love Among Royals, when we were talking about Simon and Micah's relationship, I said, like, there is a part of me that does feel the tiniest bit bad for Micah, that he's essentially being led on.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't want to say that anyone deserves like that. I mean, like, but like Simon also did have to endure presumably a lot of trauma because of Micah.
Right.
And so it's like, my sympathy can only go so far for someone who has fucked up that badly.
Oh, yeah. Because it's one thing to fuck up, it's another thing to fuck your kids up.
Yeah.
He fucked his kids up pretty bad.
Right. And I do want to say, like, Simon is essentially dealing drugs now.
Yeah, he is.
And I think in terms of things people don't talk about, I think there is a tendency to sometimes write this off as like he had no choice, which to extent like he was very definitely between a rock and a hard place, but
yeah,
he is enabling another person's addiction.
Yeah.
Which for someone with his background, it is worth considering, like I mean, not even just what that could potentially be doing to his head, like.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, I mean, we've talked about that, like, I think the fandom as a whole doesn't recognize August as an addict often enough.
Yeah. But he is.
He is. And one would think that Simon would recognize that. But again, like, what literally, like, I oftentimes, with any show, when people disagree with a character's actions, my first immediate thought has always been, okay, but what else? What would you want them to have done realistically?
Yeah.
Like what?
And also what makes sense for the character to do.
Right. Like, it's like, yeah, I think that's kind of something that I have implied that I think some people don't immediately jump to, that I'm like, for every character, maybe it's the creative writer in me. Like, I always think about them from what their own experiences are and how they would view a situation.
Absolutely. Because you can be like, well, I wouldn't make that decision. I'm like, that's great. Happy for you. You're not them.
Yeah. You don't have a situation where you have been, like, you semi feel responsible for, like, somewhat, like, raising your sister and wanting to, like, and it's like, but like, even then, you don't even have to extend that far. Like, I don't have one, but Margaret does. Like, I don't have a sibling, but it's like, to an extent, like sacrificing for your sibling feels like just a natural, like, emotion.
Yeah.
But like, also, I'm not saying that as though people often frequently judge Simon for drug dealing. I'm almost arguing the opposite, in the sense that, like, I think people are kind of quick to write Simon off as, well, not write him off, but like kind of box him in as perfect boy who can do no wrong, which I think doing that with any of the characters is a severe misreading of the text.
Yeah. I agree.
Respectfully.
With respect.
Okay. Regarding the gym scene, my only question is, how long do we think Simon will be satisfied with August's weak sauce / non-existent payment in quote unquote status?
I love that you called it weak sauce.
It is weak sauce.
It is weak sauce. I just wasn't expecting that word to come out of your mouth right then. It is weak sauce. Not long.
Yeah.
Because even while it's happening, he's like, what the hell?
Mm-hmm. And it's like, we're already establishing a tension where it's like, August hasn't paid him back for anything.
Right.
So,
and he's now got, like, the alcohol and a couple of sleeves of pills, whatever they were. I'm assuming ADHD meds.
Yeah. Yeah. But moving on to Horror Movie Night, which is our last thing. Simon the Hopeful makes way for Simon the Bold, is what I wrote down.
Hell yeah.
And then I just wrote, next level gutsy.
It was.
Like, yes, Simon the, like, Wilhelm the Reckless plays into it. Like, he needed that validation from Villa that it wasn't in his head. And, like, it's very, like, I'm not saying he wasn't nervous, because he was very clearly nervous. Like, he was very clearly, like, ran away after kissing him. And it was only Wilhelm stopping him that even meant that they actually had a mutual kiss. But but it's still just like, it's a leap that, like, I don't know, putting myself in his shoes, I might have the confidence to do.
I wouldn't. I can say that with my whole chest. Even if I was allosexual, I would not have that confidence.
I mean, that's hard for you to put yourself just in the perspective of a sexuality you do not possess, but...
That's true. However...
Yeah. Like, I think I've alluded to enough in the past episodes that, like, I at least on some level understand the emotions at play here on a personal level.
Yeah.
And so, like, shifting around things that have happened in my own life, if I had received a signal that strong as them just, like, holding my hand, like,
yeah,
I would question things. I, though, would ask for consent.
Yeah.
Like, I keep coming that every time, but it's like, as I've said in the previous podcast, like, I don't fault him that much for it. Like, it's a very socialized thing. Like, it's not actually that bad, and like it is not as bad as him just like he had signs. Like, it wasn't totally out of nowhere, and he does check for consent after the first time. And, like, we have talked about how, like, if he had asked for consent, like, what would have happened? Like, it is a different situation. But I don't know. You got to appreciate the guts.
You do. And I mean, it worked out well for him.
Oh yeah. Really could have ended bad though. I won't deny that. Could have ended badly.
It could have ended real bad.
Yeah. Even if he was correct about Wilhelm being queer, like, there was no way of knowing how he was going to react.
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, that would be probably my biggest thing. Like, more than if I knew they liked me, I think the fact that I didn't know Wilhelm's sexuality, or like Wilhelm wasn't out, would probably like portray, like, add the biggest barrier to me even to even attempting something like that.
Yeah. Because
it's like, even if I think I'm right, I don't know what kind of walls you've built up around your own self-image. It's...
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, it's just a thing you have to think about in this kind of situation where you're just like, I don't know. My brain is going into Glee.
Let's have it.
Okay.
What's your Glee rap?
I'm going to have to trigger warning Glee spoilers, because I'll probably trigger warning Mean Girl spoilers on the last one, because that's probably what I'm going to do. Spoilers for season 2 of Glee, I think. It's been a while.
I was gonna say, it's impressive that you still remember, first of all, what's happened, and second of all, what season.
I was in Glee discourse long enough that I can usually parse out. Also, the seasons are actually pretty segmented in terms of when things happen. It's also about my favorite relationship in the show, or like tangentially related. Anyways, the character of Kurt Hummel is bullied by a guy named Dave Karofsky, and Dave Karofsky just randomly ends up. I mean, it's the reverse of the situation, but Dave, who is severely closeted, just randomly kisses Kurt without his consent, and it's like, in a situation like that, you're just like, I don't know. It's a difficult situation. Like, I am so heavily appreciative of all of the shows that are coming out that portray asymmetrical out relationships, where one person is out and that person isn't, because for the longest time they were either not portrayed at all, or they were just widely considered to be down in the water.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you do have to recognize the complexities of that, of the maneuvering you have to do.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, I don't know, We're getting real contemplative on these. I don't know if we should record character episodes this late at night anymore.
For reference, it's 10 my time and 9 your time.
No, it's 10 my time.
It's 10 your time?
Yeah.
But it's 10 my time. Wait, no, it's 11 my time. This computer never updated when I moved what time it was.
Okay. There we go.
So it's 11 my time.
Yeah.
Man, this whole time I was like, damn, it's only 10. We're doing such a good job. No, it's 11.
Yeah. But, no. All this to say, because this was meant to be just to be like, this is why we like Simon.
That'd be fucking hilarious.
I like Simon because he has guts and he maneuvers in this situation as well as he can.
Yeah.
Which basically leads into my thoughts. If you're ready, Margaret.
Let's have them. I'm so ready.
Simon has revealed himself in this episode to be a character with deep ambitions and desires. While his actions may not always be the most thought through, they originate from the purest and most self-sacrificing of intentions. Not that we're praising self-sacrifice. It's just understandable. His willingness to hope is both inspiring and infinitely wholesome. And I would also add, I don't have this written, but like, so, and his, the caution that he still has related to his realism is also, relatable and totally, like, understandable. So, like,
yeah.
He's just a character who I get. I mean,
yeah.
I think and I think that's one of the if there's any universal in Young Royals, I think a lot of the fandom just like gets where Simon is coming from. Like Wilhelm, for the relatable qualities of him, he is hard to relate to sometimes, because he is in such a out there and fanciful position. But with Simon, like this is a situation that if there's any character, I guess, who is like an audience surrogate, or someone who is the audience is kind of meant to kind of be the voice of the audience to an extent. I would argue that it's potentially Simon, presuming a like working to middle class audience who would not be able to conceptualize or connect necessarily with wealth on this level. Like Simon and Sarah are the people who you get.
Yeah.
They're the Dan and Jenny Humphrey in Gossip Girl of Young Royals.
Bring it back to Gossip Girl. Did Gossip Girl make it on mic last time?
I don't think so.
Or was that just after? Okay.
No, yeah. So that's it. Now we're just going out. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to keep up to date with when we release new episodes and other pod-related announcements, you can check out our Instagram at People That Don't Talk About. Our next episode will be, surprise, surprise, a character assassination for August in Season 1, Episode 2. So stay tuned. And with that, all that's left to say is,
let's start a revolution, baby.